Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
I'd like to call the Nash County Commissioner meeting for December the 2nd to order at this time. And it's customary for our board to have a invocation by a sitting board member, and then the pledge allegiance to the flag. During this time of our prayer, you're welcome to join us in this prayer. You're welcome to use it for your own prayer if you like, or you're welcome to use it for a moment of silence. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Lou Richardson to lead us in that invocation.
Unto our Heavenly Father, who has served us with so many good blessings, we thank you for this day, for life, health, and strength. Thank you for this season of Thanksgiving that we have just endured. But help us all to remember, Lord, that every day you give us is a day of Thanksgiving. Let us be humble ourselves before you and share it one with another. Bless us in all that we say and do, that it may benefit you as we serve others. In the name of Christ we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Would you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We now move to item number 4 on the agenda, which is the approval of the minutes. Last month in November, we had a regular meeting on the 4th of November, and then our regular second meeting of the month on the 18th of November. You should have had a chance to look at those minutes. I would entertain any corrections or additions to the minutes at this time, or a motion to approve, whichever you see fit.
Move for approval.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw for approval, second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved, and thank you, Madam Clerk. We're now on item number 5 on our agenda, and according to our rules of procedures, on odd number of years, at the first meeting in December, the first order of business after approval of the minutes is to approve the election, or have an election for the chair and vice chair of this board, which is what we'll do at this time. And then we also would appoint a clerk and a county attorney for the next year or next 2 years also, according to the document that I have here before me. So at this time, I'd like to ask our attorney, Vince Durham, if he would preside over this portion of the meeting, and I'll turn it over to you now at this time, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
As the chairman has explained, now is the time to elect the new chairman for the upcoming year. I will entertain motions for the election of the chairman of the Nash County Board of Commissioners beginning today.
Mr. Acting Chairman, I would like to offer a motion that Mr. Robbie Davis serve as our chairman for the year 2020.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a second?
Chairman, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Ms. Richardson, a second by Mr. Belfield. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed by a similar sign. I believe it's unanimous. Congratulations, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and thank you,
Job well done.
board members. What's that, Ms. Richardson?
Job well done.
Thank you, ma'am. I really appreciate that. At this time, we would then elect a vice chair, and I would open the floor up for nominations for vice chair for the year 2020 as well, or starting today into 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to nominate Wayne Outlaw as vice chair for the year 2020.
Okay, have a nomination for Commissioner Outlaw for vice chair. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Have a second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion or any more nominations? All in favor of the nomination, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. And if I could take just a brief moment, I'd like to thank my commissioners for letting me chair again. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, dear. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
I won't get up and shake your hand, but I do appreciate your vote of confidence.
All right, we will now move on then to item number 8, which is public comment. And during this time, anyone that's here today that wishes to speak to the Board of Commissioners about any item that otherwise is not on the agenda is welcome to do that. There was a sign-up period out front prior to the meeting starting. But if you happen to miss that and you were here today to speak, we would allow the ones that did sign up first to speak, and then I will call on anyone else that happened to come in and missed the sign-up period. This morning, we have one person that has signed up. It's a GP Forbes from Momire Way, Nashville, North Carolina, and be glad to hear from you this morning, sir. Did I get the last name right? Is it
You were pretty close, Mr. Chairman. It's Forbes.
Forbes? Thank you, sir.
That's it.
And
Good morning,
you would state
everybody.
your name and address for the
That's
record.
it. For the record, my name is Gilmer Patrick Forbes, and I live at 4722 Momire Way in Nashville, North Carolina.
I recognize you now. I apologize.
Yeah. If nothing else, the voice tends to give me away. Some of you I know, some of you I've known for a while, some of you I don't. Good morning, and I hope everybody had a wonderful Thanksgiving. My purpose in coming up here to speak is on a subject that has been addressed before at the public comments. I took the time to review those comments on the county channel. And a little background for those that don't know me, I spent 30 years in law enforcement, the overwhelming majority of my adult life, both in local and state, having retired 6 years ago. And moving into the private sector. I operate a business, a LED lighting business based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I chose to make Nash County my home. In keeping up with the news articles and various discussions, one of the topics that came to me and is a point of interest is the repeated comments and the discussions regarding the detention facility here in Nash County, the jail. The escapes and the injuries that I read about. Recently, I read there were 2 inmates that were injured to the degree that we had to life flight them out. As I think about that and the costs that are incurred, because I assure you I'm a physically conservative individual, I think about the costs that are incurred to the taxpayers for having to fly these folks out. I think about the level of violence that has grasped our community. I realize that there have been 17 murders in the city of Rocky Mount this year. 17 murders. I think there's around 4 in Nash County. Then the sheriff Stone came and spoke at the Ruritan Club in Momire, not this month, but last month, and did a presentation on the operation of the sheriff's office, and naturally that conversation led into the conditions and the discussions that are taking place at the jail. He did a very good job, and the members of the Ruritan Club there seem to receive the comments very well. I also have taken the opportunity to have discussions with Sheriff Stone regarding these after his comments there at the Ruritan Club. You see, the jail to me is a facility that members of the community they're aware that it exists, but it's not something they want to think about during their everyday lives. The only thing they want to make sure is that facility is safe and secure and maintains security and keeps the people inside to keep the community safe, keep the community protected. And yet then I read, and it's kind of inconceivable to me that we have a facility in Nash County that is incapable of housing all of the inmates in Nash County, and that we have to ship 50 or 60 of them out to be housed in other counties. That's probably $50 a day. Math was not my strong suit, but at $50 a day and 50 inmates, that's $2,500 a day that could be used for other purposes and other benefits here in Nash County. That's going to other counties' tax coffers and general funds to operate their facilities. Then I realize, and part of Sheriff Stone's discussion is that there's no ability to lock down that facility. Having supervised and put a lot of folks in jail over 30 years and visiting probably 20 jails, 25 jails throughout North Carolina during the course of my career, some of them were abysmal and some of them were state-of-the-art. I can tell you, as a person that put people into jail, when I would hand those over to detention facilities and detention officers, I promise you, I had no desire at all to ever be a jailer. God bless them, I don't know how they do it. There's no method, no ability to lock down the facility, no method for classifications. All these inmates here, according to Sheriff Stone, are housed in open pods, and that doesn't mean, that means that you have these murderers and these violent offenders in there housed with people that, perhaps made a stupid decision and find themselves incarcerated, had a momentary lack of judgment and find themselves incarcerated that would never, ever have stepped inside that facility, but yet they're in there housed with violent criminal offenders. There's an inability to directly supervise the inmates there. Then I'm told that these female detention officers, because of the close proximity of them doing their walkthroughs and the ability for the inmates to reach through the bars and grab and grope the female detention officers, who in the world would want to work in conditions like that? It's already bad enough knowing that you're in there with them. But the very concept that you have female jailers that can't control the inmates, and as they walk by, they're assaulted physically, groped, and let's be honest with you, have bodily fluids thrown on them, and we wonder why we have a retention problem. No shower facilities there at the intake, so these folks oftentimes that are locked up were not brought out of the most hygiene conditions. So you're bringing folks into a facility that have lice and other things, and there's no way to process them or clean them. And we live in this litigious society. So all we're doing is opening ourselves, because it's in the public domain, it's in the public record now. So all we're doing is opening the county up to civil lawsuits that are going to cost us over and over and over again. And if you follow the national news and news in other states, you see this and you read about it continuously. And then, I read, and it seems that we've, I read in the Telegram that the county has hired an architectural firm. We're trying to figure out what we can do to make it better. We spent the money to hire this firm, but then I read and I also see in the sheriff's comments that he had the NIC come in and do an assessment. And I would hope that we don't have a duplication. I would hope we don't have a duplication. And I would hope that the National Institute of Corrections was professional enough to both assess the operations of the facility as well as the facility itself. You see, the operation of the facility and the operational side may be separated by which office has oversight. But at the end of the day, the operation and the facility go hand in hand. They go hand in hand. They're inseparable as a practical working condition. I understand the jail was constructed, built in the 70s and had mandated changes in the 90s that were mandated because of jail reviews and jail inspections. But at some point in time, if that facility is inadequate, if it is no longer able to meet the requirements as mandated by the state and federal guidelines, then maybe we need to take a step back and figure out what we need to do. You see, I look at that and I realize that sometimes, to use that little metaphor, that little analogy, if you put lipstick on a pig, just because you change the color of the lipstick doesn't mean that it's still not a pig. We need to be open-minded. We need to understand what the needs of the county are. We need to understand that we have employees in there that are working in conditions trying to maintain order in chaos. I don't think we should keep having to send out our inmates and pay other sheriff's offices $50 a day to house inmates because the facility that we currently have is incapable of doing that. You know, the other thing that bothers me is the ability, you know, they set fires in there. These folks sit in there 24 hours a day trying to figure out a way to tear something up, trying to figure out a way to escape. There's now mandated that we have the ability to classify inmates before they come in to a facility and when they enter this facility. And my understanding in having this conversation with Sheriff Stone is that Nash County does not have the ability to classify these inmates. And once again, that's just going to open us up to lawsuits.
Mr. Forbes, we generally restrict our comments 3 to 5 minutes, or are you getting close to being finished?
I got
Okay.
up this morning at 6 a.m. making my bullet points, and I'm down to my last 2.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Thank you for reminding me. The other thing, my daughter comes in from out of town. She enjoys coming into downtown Nashville when she comes to visit me. I happened to be in Nashville the day we had the escape. I had no idea what had happened, but what bothers me, and I spoke to this before, if one of those inmates in that desperate attempt to escape had assaulted my daughter or tried to take her vehicle, that bothers me to my core. That bothers me to my core, and it could very well happen. You know, I chose to move here and live here on purpose. I enjoy living here. I understand that this situation will mandate at some point in time expenditures, and nobody wants to spend money, but I'm just asking that we be open-minded, we be thoughtful, and we remember the community that each and every one of us want to serve and protect, which I did for so many years. That's the end of my comments, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak under public comment at this time? Seeing no one, we will move now to item number 9, which is a public hearing for general rezoning request of 163 acres on Stony Hill Church, Whitley, and Chapman Road from R40 Single Family Residential to RA 30 Single Family Residential. Mr. Tyson?
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
This is a general rezoning, as the chairman said. If you'll note on the screen, you have an aerial photo on the left and a zoning map on the right of the same location. The subject property is 4 tracts of land outlined in red on both maps, 3 on the north side of Stony Hill Church Road, and then 1 smaller one on the southern side of Stony Hill Church Road. All 4 tracts are owned by L&F Farms, LLC. They total approximately 163 acres. They're located between Whitley Road to the west, which is here, and West Horns Church Road, which is just a little further to the east on this side of the picture. The site is northeast of the town of Bailey in the area known as the Green Pond community. As you can see from the green color on the zoning map to the right, it is currently zoned R40. However, it's located immediately adjacent to an approximately 24-acre tract shown in orange right about here, which was rezoned by this board back on October 7th from R40 to RA 30 at the request of the same property owner. On November 18th of last month, the Nash County Planning Board took a look at that particular piece of property and approved this preliminary subdivision sketch plan for the first 2 phases of what is called the Williams Ridge subdivision. This is a cluster subdivision development, and so even though this property is zoned RA 30 and would normally have to have lot sizes of 30,000 square feet, they are allowed to have lot sizes as low as 20,000, which you'll note many of these lots are designed at the 20,000 square foot level, provided that all the lot area that would normally have been included in those lots is placed into common area open space. And it's a little bit light on here, but there's a rectangular lot right through here that accommodates all the individual lot areas that would be included normally in those 20 lots. And so this area is set aside to account for the smaller size of these lots. You'll note that all of these lots are along the existing public road rights of way. You have Juniper Road to the west, Stony Hill Church Road to the north, and Chapman Road to the east. And there's a large tract that is left for future development, which would most likely require an internal road to be constructed in order for those lots to be subdivided. So that plan was approved by the planning board on November 18th. You might recall that the property owner, L&F Farms, had previously requested that the previously rezoned tract and all the tracts in red be rezoned to R20 CU, medium density residential. However, that request was withdrawn back in May prior to it proceeding to a public hearing. Subject property is mostly undeveloped, primarily used for agricultural production with the exception of a couple of existing residential dwellings. It's also subject to some watershed regulation rules. That means no lots can be subdivided with less than 20,000 square feet, regardless of the county's zoning decision, because those are state standards that are imposed on us. Subject property is adjacent to two existing subdivisions. You have the White Oak Hill subdivision to the north up here, and then the Glover Oaks subdivision, which is on the west side of Whitley Road along here. Both of those were developed in accordance with the current 40,000 square foot zoning standard. So all those lots are 40,000 square feet or greater. This particular rezoning request has been submitted by the owner, L&F Farms, and it would rezone this additional 163 acres from the green R40 to match the orange RA30, which has already been established here. There are two primary impacts that the approval of a rezoning would have on this property. If you're following along in the report in your agenda, those impacts are highlighted in yellow. Number one, it would, of course, reduce the minimum lot size from 40,000 square feet down to 30,000 square feet, which would result in about a 33% or 1/3 increase in the number of lots that could be subdivided. So rezoning the property will increase the potential residential density. If you were to divide it out at the current level of density that's allowed or divide it out into individual lots under the proposed would result, again, in 33% more lots or about 1/3 more lots than if you left it zoned R40. The second primary impact has to do with the land uses that could be developed there. The proposed RA30 zoning is more restrictive than the current R40, and it would eliminate 9 individual land uses that are currently allowed under the current zoning, but would not be allowed under the new zoning. This is an excerpt on the screen from the list of permitted uses that are allowed in both zones. Everyone highlighted in yellow is something that would be allowed today, but would not be allowed under the proposed zoning. The most notable one, of course, is double-wide manufactured homes, which can no longer be developed. The other ones listed are rural family occupations, nursing or convalescent homes, solar farms, non-hazardous solid waste disposal or collection sites, public utility field offices, water treatment plants, horse shows, and turkey shoots. And of course, if the property were rezoned, it would continue to be eligible for the cluster development option, meaning that the lots could go down as small as 20,000 as long as the normal lot area is set aside in shared common area or open space. The two tools that we use to evaluate a rezoning are our land development plan and spot zoning concerns. The land development plan, the request is consistent with the plan for a number of reasons that are outlined in the report. Number one, the plan designates this whole area as suburban growth area. You can see that in the yellow color that covers the entire map area. The plan explicitly supports rezoning property within this area to the proposed RA30 zoning district when public water service is available and when the soil conditions will accommodate the installation of on-site septic systems. The subject property has access to Nash County Public Water Service via existing 4-inch water lines along Stony Hill Church Road, Whitley Road, and Chapman Road. Furthermore, the Public Utilities Department has previously determined that the existing water system has sufficient capacity to accommodate the residential development at the proposed density. And then, of course, the soil conditions of the property as observed by our Environmental Health Division appear generally sandy, well-drained, and favorable for the installation of septic systems. The higher density that will be allowed by the rezoning is consistent with the plan's recommendation that we'll need to accommodate significant residential growth in this area. And we've already touched on the 9 land uses that would no longer be permitted there. However, the land development plan is only an advisory document, and the board is not obligated to approve the request simply because it's consistent with the plan. Therefore, you can still deny it if you determine the request is not reasonable, not in the public interest, or incompatible with the specific proposed location at this time. Spot zoning would not be a concern because this would be an expansion of the previously established RA 30, which is shown in orange. And so that's already been established by the board, and this would simply be an expansion. So in this particular case, spot zoning is not something that we need to be concerned with. The Technical Review Committee considered this request back on October 31st and recommended approval based on its technical determination that the request is reasonable, it's in the public interest, consistent with the recommendations of the plan, and not spot zoning. However, the TRC also identified 2 questions regarding the timing of the request that it suggested for consideration by both the Planning Board and the Board of Commissioners. The first question is whether or not the previously rezoned tract here shown in orange should be further developed before the board decides to expand this zone any further. You saw previously in my presentation that a partial plan for the subdivision of that lot has been approved by the planning board. But one question the TRC raised is that enough, or would the board prefer to see further development? And I think it all depends on the board's attitude about that previously established rezoning. Is this an experiment for this area, in which case you want to see the results in order to judge whether it's time to expand? Or do you view it as just the first step in a sort of inevitable transition of this area to a higher density? Depending on how the board answers that question, will probably determine whether you need to see further development on this tract or if you're ready to expand that zone. The second question is, if you are ready to expand that zone, keep in mind that you could expand it to fill the entire proposed area, or it is divided up into 4 individual parcels. And so the board has the opportunity to approve an expansion for just one or a few of those parcels without necessarily having to commit to the entire area. So you have some flexibility there. Both of those considerations are non-technical considerations, and so the TRC left the answers to those questions to the discretion of both the planning board and to this board. The planning board heard that recommendation as well as this whole report on November the 18th. There were no members of the public other than the applicant present at the meeting to address the board with regard to this request. And the planning board voted unanimously to recommend consistency statement A, which is in support of approval of the request, and then they recommended approval of rezoning the entire subject property to the RA 30 zoning district. This is a 2-motion process, as you're certainly accustomed to. Your first motion is to adopt a consistency statement. You have one prepared in the report for approval, and then you have one that is also prepared for denial. However, if you choose the one for denial, we will need to craft a very brief statement explaining why, and I will stand ready to assist you with that if we get to that point. Then your second motion is to actually approve or deny the map amendment, and you have 3 options there. You can approve the entire property to be rezoned to RA 30. You could approve a portion of the property that you specify to be rezoned to RA 30, or of course you could deny the request and leave the property zoned R40 as it is now. Mr. Cecil Williams, the prospective developer, is present today to represent the application during the public hearing. And before we move on to that, I'll be glad to take any questions that you have on the staff report.
Any questions from board members at this time?
Jim.
Yes, sir.
I'm reading here where, and help me to understand this, is this because if it remains the same, it says property will remain eligible for the cluster development option, meaning that it could potentially be subdivided into residential lots as small as 20,000 square feet.
Correct.
That is if it remains R40.
If it remains R40, they could cluster down to 30,000. If you rezone it to RA 30, they could cluster down to 20,000. So it's eligible for clustering.
I got you.
But when you change the zoning, it can cluster a little further.
I got it.
Any other questions? from
I
board
got a
members?
question. So this map we're looking at right here is the way the proposed lots are set up now.
For the piece you've already rezoned, correct?
And I'm a little upset with myself, but for voting for R30s with the cluster factor in there. I'm looking at these lots and ain't but one of them 30,000 square feet. I thought that some point in time, I thought when we did that, we were looking at lots that were going to be 30,000 square feet. But I understand the cluster factors into that. Well, I'm just letting you know, and the land development plan, as far as I'm concerned, needs changing, because I don't ever intend to vote for another rezoning for 30,000 square feet that allows for down to 20 with the clustering factor in there. That's just me. I don't know how the rest of this board feels, but I see but one 30,000 square foot lot in this 25 acres.
Other questions or comments from board members? Adam, I had one question. When you showed us the common or open space, what do we have in place that allows for the dictation of maintenance of those facilities as we move forward? How's that going to work?
So before those lots that are shown could be recorded, the developer would have to submit some documents establishing an owners association. And within that, it would have to accept the conveyance of the common area, and they would have to, the owners association would have to accept not just the maintenance responsibilities, but the tax burden of that property as well. And so that agreement would come to me before they propose to record the lots, and then it would be sent to the county attorney for review.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Gomes?
I guess a misunderstanding I had, I thought that some of these lots there had to be some wet there, wet that wouldn't perk or something that would allow those lots to cluster. But evidently that's not it, because all this land perk.
Sometimes.
And so there's no plan here to do anything but put lots around the edge of the road.
Sometimes a piece of property that has a very obvious area that won't perk for septic systems, it lends itself to that becomes the obvious area if you're going to do cluster development for it to be the cluster common area, because you can't do anything with it otherwise. In this case, there's not such an obvious portion of this tract that would be set aside for wetlands or stormwater purposes.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question about the open space. Is that open space allowed to be used for roads, or must it be maintained in green space or otherwise? And is that also required to be like mowed and maintained, or is it allowed to be grown up?
It has to remain as open space that is vegetated. There is the provision where they can put some shared facilities, like say if the Property Owners Association wanted to put a picnic shelter or a shared mailbox area, but no homes or roads can be developed on that property. In terms of mowing it, in my experience, the county has not imposed any particular rules about the specific mowing requirements or things like that. Mostly they just put a prohibition on the development of homes or accessory buildings. And of course, it has to remain open and accessible to all the residents because that's essentially the part of their yard that they were owed under the current zoning. And so they need to be able to take advantage of all that area.
Other commissioners have comments or questions? Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, my first question involves water access. I understand that the applicant on the previously approved property wanted to run parallel 5 pipes for the 5 lots, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13, instead of going to the front of each lot and having a tap and run 5 parallel lines from Stony Hill Church Road. What's the status of that request?
So on this map here, the lots along Stony Hill can tap directly into an existing line. The lots along Chapman can tap directly in. And there was a proposal, as you described, to have individual lines that come off of Stony Hill to serve each of these lots along Juniper, which does not have a water line. However, that proposal was denied by the Nash County Public Utilities Department, and the developer is therefore planning to install a 2-inch water line in the road right-of-way to go down the road.
Great, thank you. The Commons area, you said there would be a required property owners association?
Right.
To
The
deal
county, the county doesn't necessarily, in most cases, require a subdivision have an owners association, but when there's a common area that must be owned by a corporate entity like that, then the ordinance does trigger the requirement that they establish an owners association.
And do those covenants have to be filed at the same time as the plat?
Yes.
Okay.
They have to be pre-reviewed by the county attorney and then filed simultaneously with the final subdivision plat.
Okay. And you said that the county does not have a mowing requirement. Is that, we haven't enforced it, or
I'm not aware
there's
that we have
nothing
one
that
at all.
requires it? So if the commons area, which has to be vegetated, goes 2 years or however long without being cut, there is nothing that,
Right now, it would just be the pressure from the members of the owners association to make it happen.
in Nash County's jurisdiction, how many similar subdivisions are there with common areas?
2 that I'm aware of, one of which the common area is mostly a pond. And in the other one, the majority of the common area is not just common area, but it is stormwater easement, which means that it can't be mowed. It has to be maintained in a natural vegetated state, and you can't do anything to it. So both of those are kind of unique in that they're not just a grassy field.
Is there anything that prevents us, and this probably is a question for Vince, putting a notation on the plat that says that the common areas must be regularly maintained and mowed?
I think we'd have to have some rules allowing us to do that.
Okay. Okay, no further questions.
All right. Anyone else have a comment? Entertain a motion to go into public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson and Bellfield at the same time. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Ladies and gentlemen, we're now in public hearing to hear from anyone that is present today that wishes to speak for or against this rezoning request. We would ask for you to come forward at this time, state your name and address, and the board would be glad to hear any comments that you have to offer in the consideration of this request. Anyone wishes to speak on this item? Morning, Mr. Williams.
Good morning, board members. Hope everybody's turkey is gone. Answer some of the questions there about the open space. In the ordinance, this is very unique in that this is a completely open field, and there is no trees or anything that is interference that is one of, anyway. In the ordinance, it says that it can be used to protect stands of trees, and it describes a variety of reasons and a variety of things that you can protect, including wetlands, which this subdivision will have plenty of wetlands on the other side of the road back in there. And we're going to put, one of our builders is going to require us to put some playground equipment and recreational facilities like a covered picnic area and whatever in this subdivision is what we intend to do. We're not going to just let it grow up and what have you, but I realize that I don't see the machine's not here anymore. So anyway, I presented to the people that had an email, I sent them some, oh, looky there. I'll show y'all a picture right quick. This is just sort of showing you where we're at. This is Jordan Road. This is a subdivision that we had approved probably almost a year ago. And this is some construction that's being built on that house. There's one more picture I'll show you there. More houses and stuff is going on down to along the way on Jordan Road. This is going on now as we speak. So it takes, and this other one about the section that we already had rezoned and the approval, my engineer is working with the county now to get all the Ts crossed and the Is dotted to start that phase of the subdivision. The interior lots, as soon as we get that recorded, we're going to start on the interior lots. But from the time we start trying to get a road designed and completed to where we can start building houses on it, it'll be probably a year. So, and I've just got emails right this morning as I've been here in the meeting of some of the people that have looked at the lots that are signing letters of intent and trying to get in as quick as they can so they can get what few lots there are available there. So they'll be ready to step in and purchase lots just as soon as we're able to get a recorded plat. And I mean, we're just trying to get some lots to get builders, and we're going to completely finish building that subdivision. And the rest of the subdivision, the Chapman Road, there's a dirt road, and I don't think the state has any, I don't know we're going to be the one that's going to have to widen that, fix that road and pave it. So one of the subject properties is on the other side of Chapman Road that will benefit from the rezoning as well. And I'm just here to answer any questions.
Anyone have a question, Mr. Williams?
I guess my big question is, why do all these lots stay 20,000 square foot lots when we were looking 30,000 square foot lots?
Sir,
It's not because it's wet or any reason to do that.
that's the exact reason for doing that, is they're not wet, and the 20,000 square foot of perk, and in my personal opinion, 30 or 40, this land was previously required to have 40,000 square foot lots until the 40,000 square foot rule died in the DWQ or whoever was looking after that. Then we petitioned the board to remove the 40,000 square foot from the ordinance. The commission here did that back some time ago, and now that allows for smaller lots down to the 20,000 square foot, and it stops at 20,000 square foot because it's, as Mr. Tyson said, that's the regulations say you can't go any lower than 20,000, but the exact reason for doing 20,000 square feet is because the land is so good for septic tanks that you can do 20,000 square feet pretty much across the board with no problems with drainage fields.
But that extra 10,000 square foot per lot's got to be sit idle back here.
Yes, sir.
So
And that- well, but that's
why not
sort of-
use it in the lot instead of sitting it aside, something that somebody's going to have to maintain, or it's going to grow up in weeds and trees and stuff?
My view on that is that you're looking at a 30,000 square foot lot, I'm looking at a 20,000 square foot lot, and everybody's going, and I'm taking 10,000 out of this person's yard, and I'm putting it over here, and we're going to have a community yard that's going to be much larger to where they can do other things that if they want to with them, such as they're going to put basketball goals up, they want to put a little soccer deal in, and the homeowner association is set up, and the homeowners today wants these extra amenities.
Other questions or comments, Mr. Williams? Do you have anything, Mr. Dan? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Mr. Belfield?
With the zoning that we did, over a month and a half ago,
Yes, sir.
what progress have you made as it relates to development within that R30?
Our engineers have filed a proper documentation with the planning board to get the final plat approvals. Planning board approved that at the last planning board meeting. And we're getting, like I said a while ago, we're getting final approval from the county so we can put together a recordable plat. And we have builders already have signing
signed letters of intent wanting to purchase the lots that will be available, with other people wanting to sign letters of intent for lots that we don't have yet. And that's what we're trying to do now, is get more land approved so that we can try to get ahead of the demand on the lots for the subdivision.
Other commissioners, Ms. Leggett?
Yes, sir. You made reference to a final plat that, you know, your proposal of how you will build this tract out. The map right here, is that pretty similar?
Yes, that is the map. That is the map, and we've got the road, exterior roads, which on Juniper Road, we ran into the problem with the water line that I wasn't aware of, wasn't the water line there. Engineers now have sent to the county for their approval to put in a water line extension to cover those lots, and that's going to probably take 60 more days to get that done. There is a water line on Chapman Road, but all those lots have been spoken for. And like I said, to put the interior road in and get that, all the permits and things that have to go with the permits and get the construction done, it'll take 12 months to
Right.
get all that done.
Right, that was what I was getting to with my question, is the final, what the final product would look like, and
That's
So
what
we
the
would have
final
an
phase
idea.
1 and 2 would look like, but the final product will be the homes inside, because I can't afford to purchase land and not, put the interior lots in and develop it as fully as you can. So that's all. We're going to develop it fully, but we're just going to take 12 months, and who knows what's going to be going on. I do know we have an election, and who knows what all happens after elections and so forth is up in the air. But that's things we have to deal with every day. But anyway, I'm here to hope we can get this approved.
Other commissioners? Mr. Lamb, do you have a question?
A couple small questions. You claim, I know this is about a rezoning of a different piece of property, but it seems clear that several of the commissioners were not, as was I not, clear that we were going to get 20,000 square foot lots, except for one using the cluster method, which according to the ordinance is proper. My question is, and I've been a real estate broker for over 40 years, and family's been in real estate for 70 years, so I understand the concept of building lots on existing roads.
Yes, sir.
So I have two questions. Chapman Road, is that a state road?
Yes. It's a
Why-
dirt road.
Why did you say you would have to?
Because it's currently a dirt road, and I don't know with the state budget, and we're talking to people at the state now as who's going to put the improvements on the road.
Was that road in existence in 1974?
I'm sure it was.
Well, then it's the state's responsibility.
That would be good news, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
To me, it would be.
The second question is, if you went to 30, and this might be a question for you or you, if you went to 30,000 square feet in a future plat, different piece of property, would you be able to get the same lots on the highway, on the road frontage as he is getting?
Yes.
So you could still get 30,000 square foot lots and have 20 lots as you have it right here?
Yes.
The lots could be the same width.
Same width,
under both
frontage,
zones,
road
but
frontage.
They'd have to be deeper under the 30,000 than they would under the.
Have to be a football field deep.
Okay.
But the width does not
So in
change.
order to make it 30,000 square feet, and it wouldn't be long lots, you would have to extend the width of the
Correct.
lots. So that would cut down on the number of lots you can do under this. It says remainder of tract for future development. What is the access point for that future development.
Chapman Road.
Chapman Road past lot number 20?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams.
Thank you.
To anyone else in the audience today that wishes to speak on this rezoning, either for or against? Seeing no one come forward, I'd entertain a motion to close the public hearing at this time.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs, there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Just a couple of comments. If I could, I want to make sure the board understands that we have reviewed recently the part about clusters, and we did remove clusters from some zoning categories. The board at that time decided to leave it in R30. So, I mean, what the developer is proposing is certainly within the confines of what we have recently adopted or readopted and approved. So, I don't know what we thought that he would do, and I'll be the first to agree that normally cluster is used in an area where you have some undesirable land that allows you to get more lots on the same acreage, even though you got some land that will not perk or you need for stormwater retention for any other reason. So I do see why some of our commissioners have an issue with what we see here versus maybe what we thought we would see. But it does meet what we have recently approved and well within that. Otherwise, the staff wouldn't have recommended it, nor would the planning board have been able to approve it. So I just want us to understand that what we got here is allowed within our ordinance. Is it what we want? We really need to remember all these conversations as we move forward, because we're going to be looking at this whole thing over the next year. And that's the time to get it like the sitting board wants it to be. If we have something in our ordinance and it is allowed, I generally think we really ought to do our best to approve it simply because we've got it in our ordinance, and it puts us on a little bit shaky ground moving forward if we don't, based on court cases that I've seen over the years. So the whole key to what I'm trying to say is we got to get the ordinance and our zoning and land development like we really want Nash County to be developed over the next year as we move forward with this. And Adam, I hope you keep good notes on all the comments that you have at these public hearings, because it's going to be very important moving forward. But just an overall comment for the board, and I will stop at this point, and I would just ask for the pleasure of the board or a motion.
Mr. Chairman, your comment?
Yes, sir.
This is the reason why we need to move quickly on our land, reviewing our total
Yes, sir.
land use development plan.
I think we've made that very clear to the
We
staff.
said we're gonna do it, but
I think
I'd
it's,
like to see us speed it up.
okay, well, I'll back up and let you speak to the manager, sir.
During the manager comments, I have 3 proposed dates for a work session that I will share with the board,
Right.
and it can be moved up if y'all so choose.
And I agree with Mr. Belfield. We've really got to get this thing underway, but it won't happen in 30 days. I mean, we've got to hire some consultants, and it's just going to move along, but certainly within 12 months, I hope we can get it done, Mr. Tyson. But with that said, we're at the point now where we need to take action on this particular one, so I'd entertain any motion that a board member wishes to put forward.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Leggett?
the previous tract that we approved was approved as being built out as a subdivision and rezoned for a subdivision. And at this point, that subdivision has not come to pass. So with that said, once this comes to pass, I think I would like to take another look at this, but at this point, I would like to make the motion to approve consistency statement B for denial.
And would it be
And
fair
we
to
need a-
say, excuse me,
We would need a reason, which I guess you just stated, but Adam, would you put it in a form that satisfies you as far as?
what I would suggest is that your motion would be that it's not reasonable, the rezone is not reasonable at this time until the previously rezoned tract is further developed.
Correct. Yes, sir.
And I'll second that motion.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, we have a second to the motion. Is there any member that doesn't understand the motion?
Make sure you state it so everybody understands.
Okay.
Whatever. Either.
All right, the motion is
Either you,
that-
Mr. Chairman, or Mr. Tyson.
We're on the consistency statement, and what the motion is to approve consistency statement B. And the reason for denial, as stated by Ms. Leggett, is that she wishes to see further development on the previous rezoning request that we have already approved, R30. Any other questions on the motion?
I think to further expound on that, I think it's stated here as a TRC recommendation in order to demonstrate its compatibility with the surrounding area before it is expanded to include additional land.
All right, well, what we can do then is have the motion, Adam, say exactly what the TRC point that is put in the agenda for us.
Right. The rezoning would not be reasonable at this time until the previously rezoned tract is further developed to demonstrate its compatibility with the surrounding area.
All straight on that? Have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? That motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Tyson.
Now we need a second motion.
You're right. We have a consistency statement. I need a second motion that would either, well, really, I only have one option now, which is to deny the rezoning.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Combs to deny the rezoning. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? The zoning is denied at the present time. Mr. Williams, you have any questions on what we did? I guess it was pretty clear.
No, I don't. It wouldn't be possible to at least get the piece under Chapman Road where that, when that's extended, it could, the state could work both sides, or we can make it work both sides of the road.
I would say you would need to submit that as a separate entity, but hearing what the board said today, I really think they won't see further development on what we already have approved, but certainly you can submit. I don't know if there's a time restraint on when you can come back and
There is not.
resubmit. There is not, so you could resubmit that request, Mr. Williams, anytime moving forward that you wish to. Okay, thank you, sir.
I had a clarifying question, just so I can advise the applicant. The motion was that the board would like to see further development on the track that's on the screen first. Is there a sense of what you would like to see before you would want to have this proposal ahead of, like, do you want the planning board to approve a plan that shows lots over the entirety of that track? Do you want those lots to be recorded? Do you want there to be houses to be built? Is there a sense of how far in the development process you'd like this to go before it comes back before you?
I don't know that we can really dictate that, Mr. Tyson. I think it's just a matter of, I think I know what the general intent of the board is, which is to see it further development, and I think what we want to avoid when we can is to have development on road fronts only and everything else sit dominant for a long period of time, but I'm not sure that's what the board intended with the recent vote that we took, but I believe that's about as far as we can legally describe what it was. But I would invite the applicant to talk to any board member about it that he wishes to, since it's not a quasi-judicial situation. All right, while you're up, we'll move on to item number 10, which is a 6-month extension for conditional use permit for Spring Hope Solar 2 LLC facility on Fraser Road.
And before moving on, my final comment there would be on the cluster development piece specifically. That is not something that we need to necessarily wait through the entire one-year land development plan to make changes. Certainly, we looked at it a couple months ago, but if the board, instructed the manager to instruct me to bring that back, that's something that we could look at, almost immediately. That's not something that requires a lot of study necessarily if you wanted to change that. So I just
Well,
wanted.
I really think we need to look at the whole thing in its entirety moving forward.
Right.
Not try to, take bits and pieces of it.
Okay.
Because you're going to formulate what you want this county to look like moving forward and where you want it to look like certain ways. So to keep doing a little piece at a time, I feel like we're going to prohibit what we really want in the end. We can always deny, or we can ask for any developer to commit not to do cluster zoning at either one that's brought to us in the meantime. Is that not correct?
If it was a conditional use rezoning, a stipulation could be no cluster development.
Okay. I believe it would be in our best interest unless a board member objects to it, to do it that way.
Okay.
See you none. All right, we're now on item number 10. I didn't mean to move ahead of you.
So this is a request for a 6-month extension for a conditional use permit for a solar farm. Certainly, you've seen this scenario before. The solar farm development process involves a long negotiation with the utility provider in an area that can take many years. This is conditional use permit CU 141102 that was issued for Spring Hope Solar 2 LLC solar farm. It's set to expire on January 5th, 2020. But a 6-month extension granted by this board would allow it to remain valid through July 5th, 2020. It is the 53 acres highlighted in red on the aerial photo in front of you there on the screen. It's owned by Dogwood Creek Land Holdings. The most recent permit extension was granted back in June, and the project has continued to move through the required steps of the North Carolina interconnection procedures process with Duke Energy Progress since that time. Their most recent notable milestone was on October 29th. They received a facility study report that outlines the cost for the utility provider to upgrade the surrounding infrastructure to allow the solar farm to be interconnected. And currently, the developer is waiting the execution of that agreement that would allow them to pay Duke Energy Progress to begin work on those upgrades. The applicant projects construction to begin in the second or third quarter of 2020. However, they note that process is largely driven by the utility provider, and so they're somewhat at the mercy of Duke Energy Progress to complete those upgrades before they can move forward. A little background on the project: it originally came to you as a 3-part solar farm. Spring Hope Solar 1 is shown in blue on the south side of the road down here. Spring Hope Solar 2 is what we're talking about, highlighted in red, and Spring Hope Solar 3 is shown in blue right here. Since that time, Spring Hope Solar 1 project, the approval was allowed to expire, and the company is no longer pursuing that aspect. And since June, when you granted the last extension for this one, its sister project over here has moved on to a construction permit, and so it no longer needs those extensions because it has moved further in the development process. The ordinance allows the board, as the permit issuing authority, to extend the date that the permit remains valid for up to 6 months according to 3 criteria. Number 1, the permit should not have yet expired, and certainly this one has not. Number 2, the permit recipient must have proceeded with due diligence and in good faith. And number 3, the conditions of the property have not changed so substantially as to warrant a new application. There's no limit on the number of permit extensions that could be granted by the board. It's entirely at your discretion, and we do not need to hold an additional public hearing in order to take that action. So this is a one-motion process to either approve or deny the extension. Again, it would extend it from the current expiration date of January 5, 2020 to July 5, 2020. The site plan that was approved shows 3 distinct areas of solar panels within that red area we were just looking at. And so just as a reminder, this is the plan for how that property will be developed once all the utility company hurdles have been cleared. And I'll be glad to take any questions about that extension that you have.
Any questions from board members?
Why is Solar 3, you say it's on the way, it's done deal.
Solar 3 has a valid issued electrical permit for its construction, and so it no longer needs to, that takes the place of the zoning approval, so it doesn't have to go through these incremental extensions because it's further along in the process.
This is a separate owned piece of property here?
It might be owned by the
Solar
same
too?
property owner, but it's being pursued by a separate solar development company.
Okay, all right. So 6 months ago, we extended both pieces of
Correct.
property, is that right?
And now the one in blue on the right has moved beyond the point where it requires further extensions, but the one in red still does.
Okay, all right.
Other questions?
Nothing but a comment.
Yes,
There's
sir.
an awful lot of extensions for one piece of property.
Sir?
That's an awful lot of extensions for that one site there.
Well, we seem to have a common denominator, Mr. Belfield, as you know, that it all is driven by the end power receiver, which in this
Yeah.
case is Duke, and I know,
I understand that.
yeah,
but,
I know that's pretty much out of anybody's
maybe
control.
Maybe the extensions ought to be 12 months instead of 6.
Oh, I see where you're pointing now. Something we could look at, I guess.
Sure, that would be an ordinance amendment. It's our ordinance that limits you to doing just 6 months. The idea is, if the board were to change its attitude about solar farms and decided it did not want this project to move forward, then it gives you an out every 6 months in case you change your attitude.
Sure. Understood. Point well taken, Mr. Belfield.
Well, I don't agree with that. comment.
That point's well
That's
taken
awful.
also, Mr. Belfield.
Well, it's too many times coming for extensions, and we just, 12 months is not bad
Yep.
at all.
Well, initially, they get 2 years,
Right. You get 2 years the first time.
and then it becomes a 6-month process.
You got the same problem I got. 6 months don't take as long to go by. It usually
That's
does.
right. It doesn't take long for a year.
Hope you get quick.
Time moving fast. Moving on.
Mr. Combs, did you have a comment?
No, sir.
Okay, all right. I'd entertain a motion at this time on this item then.
So moved that we extend.
Okay, have a motion to extend. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tyson. We'll move on to item 11, which is a Nash County farm lease, and I'll call on Sandy Hall at this time to make this presentation. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm here this morning about the Nash County farmland lease. We had the 2 properties that were advertised, and we accepted the bids on Friday, November 15th. A farm lease bid was accepted on Friday, November 15th at 12 p.m. for the Farm Service Ag Track 12207 in Middlesex for the 60.62 acres. 1 bid was submitted and received by the deadline Derek Bissett, submitted a bid of $68.04 per acre. That equates to exactly what he's been paying before. No bid was received for the farm track 12258 in Whitakers on Highway 48 for the 34.52 acres. So the recommendation is to accept the bid for the track in Middlesex, and then seek additional opportunity to advertise and resubmit for the Whitakers property.
Okay. All right, any questions on the recommendation by Ms. Hall?
Sandy, maybe we need to explain why the acres change here.
Okay, so we are following Farm Service Agency's acres to keep a consistency. However, Middlesex had it down previously as 55 acres because of the new road, and I think there was a pile of dirt and
Some of it, the dirt's piled on.
right, some of that, but Farm Service Agency has not updated their records to indicate that there would be only 55 acres available for the farm. So we've gone by exactly what, to keep it consistency and pull from the right place. So Farm Service Agency will have to look at that again and can make the changes, but have not made the changes at the time. So it is reported at 60.62 acres. hence why the bid is exactly what he's been paying.
Where'd you get that? The money's the same.
Same.
But when this started, Charlie told him it's 54 acres, and that's about what all his equipment says he's tending. Some of that clear land that FSA's had on their record for years, it shows it's clear land, but it is, some of it's growed up, some of it's got dirt piled on it, and he's actually not tending but the 55 acres. Some of it is not tendable, but FSA has not updated their record yet.
Correct.
So she's trying to use the same figures for legalities that FSA says there is over there, which is not actually what he's farming.
Correct.
When you say the same figures, Mr. Hall, are you saying on the per acre figure or the total figure?
The total figure.
Total
Total.
figure. Okay, I got you. You just did a division of what really.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mr.
What
Belfield?
crops are grown on this property?
Say it again,
The
I'm sorry.
crops.
The
that are-
crops that are
Yeah, that are
grown
grown.
on it? Are you asking what the crops are that they're growing on it?
Yes.
I'm not sure what that would be.
I don't think we
Soybeans.
have a restriction.
Soybeans,
on that
corn.
lease.
It's what?
Soybeans, corn.
Soybeans and corn.
Yeah. I don't think they grow any tobacco back there. It's a little rough.
Other questions?
Ms. Hall, is he okay with that, keeping the same rental rate and paying on those acres, even though he's tending less acres?
Yes, and he understood the consistency that we were trying to do. So if we get it changed, and this will come up every 2 years, then it will, if we can get Farm Service Agency's records, we'll follow that, what they have.
Okay.
All right, other questions? Entertain a motion to approve this one lease.
I'll make a motion, we approve this lease.
Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? And Ms. Hall, I did receive a call on the way to the meeting this morning from the person that's tending 48, didn't understand the process, et cetera. I think you maybe have made sure they knew what to do, but it just didn't happen.
Right.
If you would just let me know when it goes back out, I'm going to make sure they, as you have,
Yes,
know that it's back out, and I think we will receive at least one bid the
Right.
next time from the person that currently is.
they misunderstood how the process is, and they've been,
You may be aware of that, I'm not
Yeah,
sure. They wanted to
yes.
come this morning and make the presentation and get it done today, but I didn't feel like we should, I didn't think we could legally do that. You've got to
Exactly.
re-advertise it. so-
Exactly.
Okay.
So we will
they will be
go
here
through the
next time,
process.
I feel sure.
and we're looking at going through the process this month.
Okay.
Advertising, accept bids,
Ju-
looking
just-
at December 19th.
Right. Just make certain that individual owner, not the employee, knows that it's
Correct.
out. And if you need any explanation, call me. I'll tell you who to make
I know
sure we need to
exactly
know.
what you're
Okay, all right. You probably heard the whole story I
Yes.
heard this morning. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
I
Have a good
appreciate you getting this
Mr.
thing
Chair.
straight. Yes, sir.
It's also on here, it says recommend that to keep the bid reopened for the Whitakers.
That's what we were
We
just
supposed
discussing.
to act on, vote on that?
I don't think so. Well, tell me, what
I
do you
don't
want?
think so. I think we're just
I think
asking,
we just didn't have anything to award, therefore
Right.
she's going to re-advertise it.
All right.
and then we'll bring it back in January.
I just didn't want us to leave that.
I understand. I appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, item number 12 is the Nash County Miracle Park at Coopers. Patsy McGee is going to make this presentation.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This morning, we are bringing to you an item regarding the Nash County Miracle Park at Coopers, specifically an agreement with the Coopers Community Development Corporation for funding improvements. The Coopers Community Development Corporation has committed to raise $250,000 to fund capital improvements at the park. And in your packet is a copy of the agreement, which has been reviewed by the county attorney and approved by the Coopers Community Development Corporation November 20th, I believe. And this formalizes this commitment, which would occur over 5 years, but could be paid off prior to then, and Coopers Community Development Corporation fully expects to do that ahead of schedule. So my recommendation is to approve this agreement, which funds part of the Nash County Miracle Park at Coopers.
Okay, any questions on this? I know we've been working on it a little while. Mr. Outlaw, do you have any questions? You good?
Mr. Chairman, I would move for approval of the agreement.
All right, have a motion to approve. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion is approved, and I think it's great of what the association is doing for the county, for their area. It's unusual to get a individual nonprofit organization to be raising money and bringing it to the county. And certainly that's a large sum of money they have committed to, but it seems like they've pretty much already gotten there, and it sure helped a whole lot in the development of that park over there. So, Patsy, if you'll make sure they understand, the board greatly appreciates it.
Yes, sir. Not enough good things could be said about their commitment to this project. Thank you.
That's why I asked you. Now on item number 13.
Here he is.
And just in time, this is the introduction of the new Economic Development Director for Nash County. I would just say that the board is very excited to have this going on this day. It's an item that we undertook about 6 months ago, and a very large and very important item that we are going to take a few minutes to celebrate, I guess you would say, or introduce this gentleman this morning. And I know this board is very anxious to get this person started, but without further ado, I'm going to ask Mr. Lamb to introduce Mr. Haggie, and then we're going to take a short recess, about 15 or 20 minutes, to welcome him to Nash County. Mr. Lamb?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, department heads, and public. This is a great day. About 6-7 months ago, the commissioners made the choice to have our own economic development department here in Nash County. We received over 70 applications. We had a screening committee go through those applications, invite 4 or 5 people to an interview, got it down to 2, and the screening committee recommended to the county manager unanimously the appointment of Andy Haggie as the new Nash County economic developer. He is currently the executive director at the Greenbrier Valley Partnership in West Virginia and has been there for 3 years. Greenbrier, of course, is where there is quite a bit of skiing and development going on. He's also, among his accomplishments in the 3 years that he's been at Greenbrier Valley Partnership, he's managed 4 new projects and expansions totaling $61 million and 325 new jobs. Mr. Haggie has an abundance of experience in economic development in Virginia, where he was a private consultant and worked on projects in Hopewell, Clarksville, New Kent, Virginia, James City County, Fredericksburg, Norfolk, and Chesapeake, and many more. At this time, we are happy to welcome Andy to Nash County and look forward to him joining our team on January 1, 2020. If we could at this time, have you come forward, and we're excited to have you here. And as the chairman said, we'll be able to all introduce ourselves to you personally in just a few minutes.
Well, good morning.
Morning.
I wasn't nervous until I just heard this. And now I'm nervous. But it's great to be here. It's great to have this tremendous opportunity. I think Nash County's got lots to sell, and especially with its buildings and sites and logistics and interstate and port access and et cetera, and everything you already know. And I'm excited to get started to start marketing and selling Nash County and letting everybody know Nash County is open for business. And I look forward to working with you, Z, Stacy, and the rest of the staff, and moving forward Nash County's economy, creating jobs, capital investment, and of course, tax revenue for the county. So I look forward to it, and I look forward to meeting everyone during the break that I have not got to meet. I want to thank the steering committee and getting to know them, and as well as Z and Stacy since then. But again, it's great to be here. It's a good day, and I look forward to starting 2020 as a member of the Nash County team.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate you being here. Didn't mean to put you on the spot as soon as you came into the county. Chambers here for the first time, but we wanted to test your ability to present yourself without any notice whatsoever, so we decided to do it as soon as you came through the door. But welcome to Nash County. I think you will find us a very nice place to work. We're very anxious to move forward with our Economic Development Department. We have a great reporter staff here for our 3 local papers who would certainly like to talk to you at some point, I'm sure, and as well as our local TV station that's present with us today. But with that said, I'm going to ask for a motion to take a 20-minute recess so we can just be a little bit more relaxed and introduce ourselves to you, for the ones on the board or any member of our departments or employees that hadn't met you thus far.
I move, Mr. Chairman, that we have a 20-minute recess.
Okay, have a motion. Is there a second to that motion? Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. None. We stand in recess at this time. Thank you. Call us back to order at this time, and I would call, we're now on item number 15. I'd call on Donna Wood for the budget amendments for the month. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. Okay, the following budget amendments are being presented for the board's consideration for fiscal year 1920. First one is cooperative extension. This budget amendment is to budget grant funding from North Carolina State University for the Master Food Volunteer Program. It's $300. No county funds are required. Second item, this is an additional budget amendment to increase 100% non-capped federal funds to non-emergency Medicaid transportation client services. It's $5,279, and no county funds are required. Next item is with senior services. This amendment is to budget the grant proceeds from the North Carolina Department of Insurance for the Seniors Health Insurance Information Program. It's $9,698, no county funds are required. Next item is with the Sheriff's Office. This budget amendment appropriates Nash County's portion of a joint grant application with the City of Rocky Mount for 2019 Justice Assistant Grant, the JAG grant. The Sheriff's Office will use the proceeds to purchase alternate uniforms to be worn at special assignments and special events. These uniforms will allow high visibility with yellow polo with sheriff and reflective letters across the back. It's $14,664. No county funds are required. The next item is with the Sheriff's Office Federal Asset Forfeiture Funds. This amendment is to budget funds for outfitting 3 vehicles and radios for 6 vehicles to be purchased with asset forfeiture money. It's $40,000. No county funds are required. The next item is with water and sewer. This amendment is to budget increased funding for additional tap fees and installation. $15,000. No county funds are required. And the final item is with the Health Department. This budget amendment is to budget excess reserve funds to the North Carolina Community Care Network Incorporated pursuant to Section 4B1 of the Pregnancy Care Management Agreement and Section 3B1 of the Care Coordination Children Agreement. Excess reserves are deemed to be cash balances in excess of 3 months of operating funds for each program. These programs have been able to accumulate these excess funds due to the efficient operations within the Nash County Health Department. The program reimbursement is $261,877. No county funds are required. These are coming out of the health reserves.
Okay, any questions on either of those 7 amendments? Entertain a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Budget amendment stand approved. Thank you, Mr. Wood. Item 16 is board appointments. Stacey, do we have any this morning?
Board appointments?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. The first one is a vacancy that we've been working on, and I've not heard any word about someone for the TDA. Is there any new information on that?
Is not.
Okay. So the next one is for the Farmers Market Advisory Board. We have terms expiring December 31st, 2019 for several of the board members. The Cooperative Extension Director, Sandy Hall, is recommending that the following members be reappointed: Ricky Parks, Tim Bass, Joyce Kite, Vaden Hartley, and Fred Belfield. Member Fran Faulkner Williamson is no longer active and is being recommended for reappointment by Joshua Praven. And member Paula Regis is no longer a market vendor and is being recommended for replacement by Freddie Howe. Both Joshua and Freddie's applications were in your packets.
Okay. Any questions on the Farmers Market Board or any comments? Entertain a motion to approve those.
Mr. Chairman, I'll
Yes.
make a motion, we approve Freddie Howe to the Farmers Market Board.
And all of them.
Okay, the whole thing, okay. Paula,
I'm going to ask for a
Beaver.
motion for the whole slate.
Okay, well, that's what
Okay.
I'll change it to that,
Okay.
okay?
Have a motion to approve the slate as presented. Is there a second to that motion?
That's second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
Chairman,
Yes.
I just passed our secretary a note. It's Joshua Parvin.
I'm sorry.
Right. I didn't see the R, but I thought it, I know that.
I apologize.
Yep.
Okay, the next one is for the Agricultural Advisory Board. Terms expire on December 31st, 2019 for the following members: Steve Bass, Linda Fisher, and Brent Leggett. The Cooperative Extension Director is recommending reappointment of all 3 of these members.
Questions or comments? Motion for approval?
Move for approval.
Have a motion to approve by Ms. Richardson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, the next one is for the Braswell Memorial Library Board of Trustees. The term for Ricky Pitt expires December 31st, and the director, the library director, Catherine Roche, has recommended reappointment of Mr. Pitt.
Any questions on Mr. Pitt?
I recommend reappointment.
Have a motion to approve the reappointment. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries.
Okay, and the last one is for the Upper Coastal Plain RPO Transportation Advisory Committee. Annually, the board has the opportunity to look at the membership of the RPO. Nash County and Red Oak have permanent appointments to this committee, and the Board of Commissioners has the option of changing the other 2 appointments, the other 2 appointed municipalities, which are Middlesex and Spring Hope. The recommendation from our Upper Coastal Plain RPO Transportation Planner, James Salmons, is to reappoint both of these municipalities.
Questions on this recommendation? Motion?
Motion to reappoint.
Motion to reappoint, is there a second?
Second.
Second. Commissioner Outlaw, any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well.
And that's all for the board appointments.
Completes item 17, we'll move right on into 18.
Before we get to that, before we get to that.
Yes, sir.
Next item.
Yes, sir.
Are we looking into an expansion of the Brownsville Memorial Library?
I think Mr. Lamb was going to bring that up at the next library board meeting. Has that happened yet?
No, sir. The next meeting is, I believe, the third Wednesday in December.
Okay.
And he had indicated it would be, he would bring it up to the rest of the board members at that point, Mr. Belfield. I believe you did get a email from Stacy about the rest of the terms.
Yeah.
When they expired. Okay,
Yeah,
you
I
did
got
receive that. Okay, all right. Thank you. Go ahead with item number 17, which is to appoint the board calendar for the 2020 calendar year.
Yes, sir. The clerk to the board is required by law to have available for the public the scheduled meeting dates for each calendar year. In 2020, there are 2 meetings that fall on holidays that need to be rescheduled. In addition, the March 2nd, 2020 regular meeting conflicts with the NACO Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C. I have provided you all with a recommended calendar. I did work with Mr. Davis on a couple of these dates and sent a couple of emails out to you about, I think, the March date to make that Thursday, March the 5th. Instead of the following week. We had a conflict the following week. And I did hear from Commissioner Leggett that she does have a conflict for the January 21st proposed meeting date.
Okay, any other comments from board members? Mr. Leggett, what did you wish to try to do for that 21st?
I think y'all could probably proceed on without me that day.
That's the second meeting, will be on a Tuesday, I guess. Is that what we got?
I believe so, yes.
I mean, we can look at alternate date if you like.
I won't be available that week.
Okay. All right. Any other conflicts that anybody knows of?
So the only change to what was submitted was if we stay with January the 21st, and that would be in March, would be March the 5th. Everything else is as given to us. Is that?
Given to you, too.
And then we had September. There was a change in September.
September the 8th,
Yes.
so that's good.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
It seems like the commissioners' retreat was a week later last year. Is it, or am I wrong?
I think it was, maybe, I'm remembering like March 26th, 27th.
Yeah. I would ask that you consider the following week for that. I know Donna gets everything out as quick as she can, but that extra week would certainly help us get all the budgets.
The reason why we did shoot for the timing that we did, our clerk would not be available to be with us that following week. She will be at an annual conference.
For the whole week?
Wednesday, I believe it's, looks like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Okay. Donna, you okay with 18th, 19th, or would you rather have it? We can have it even into April, early April. If I really, that would help, wouldn't it?
Okay.
Last year, we had it on the 26th and 27th, which were a Tuesday and a Wednesday, which is approximately 1 week later as stated.
Tuesday, April 7th, Wednesday, April 8th. Did you want to go into the first part of April?
That would be better for finance. I know that much.
So you gonna have the April meeting
You still have the April regular meeting
on the 5th, on the 6th?
on the 6th.
6.
And then later that week, we'll have the commissioners retreat.
That is Good Friday, that Friday. I don't know what,
How about what? Can't do the 8th.
the 1st and 2nd is a possibility, Wednesday,
That works.
April 1st,
That'd be fine.
Thursday, April 2nd.
The week before our regular meeting on the 6th would be fine. The end of that week. Second and third, or first and second. Does that work for everyone?
Which one?
Either the first and second, or second and third, which would be Wednesday and Thursday, or Thursday and Friday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, Wednesday and Thursday, the first and the second.
Okay,
Thank you.
all right, I've noted that change.
So could you go, if we're through, could we go through them now and make sure we've got them all?
Sure. So our first meeting of the month, January 6th. The second meeting in January, the 21st. First meeting in February, February 3rd. No second meeting in February. First meeting in March, March 5th. The second meeting in March will be, will not be March anymore, will now be April 1st and 2nd for the Commissioner's Budget Retreat. Then the following Monday, the 6th, is your first meeting in April. No second meeting in April. First meeting in May, May 4th. Second meeting in May, May 18th. First meeting in June, June 1st. Second meeting in June, June 15th. First meeting in July, July 6th. No second meeting in July. First meeting in August, August 3rd. No second meeting in August. First meeting in September, September 8th. Second meeting in August, September 21st. First meeting in October, October 5th. No second meeting in October. First meeting in November, November 2nd. Second meeting in November, November 16th. First meeting in December, December 7th. And no second meeting in December. Okay?
Everybody good?
You said January was on the 21st and not the 20th,
Correct.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, because the 20th is, I believe, Martin Luther King holiday.
We're through. I'd entertain a motion to adopt the calendar as just read by Stacy.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Combs, second by Commissioner Wells. Everybody okay? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Calendar stands adopted.
Mr. Chairman, before we go on to the next item,
Yes,
can we
sir.
go back to board appointments, something I just overlooked?
Yes, sir. Will be.
Is the commissioner member need to be reappointed at this time? It looks like it does.
That's for the rule,
Yeah, you.
ROP?
RPO.
RPO, excuse me.
I know normally that's a yearly appointment.
Oh, yes, sir. I apologize. I did fail to put that out there. Yes, we have our commissioner member, Commissioner Wayne Outlaw, that also needs to be reappointed.
Entertain a motion to reappoint Commissioner Outlaw to the RPO.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Richardson, second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries as well.
Thank you, Mr. Outlaw.
I'm sorry I overlooked that.
All right, we good?
We're, the next item.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
Item 18 is where we're at. It's adopting amendment rules of procedure for the board. They were in your packet to review.
And I provided you with a cover sheet that outlined the changes that were made. And then I had a phone call with Attorney Vince Durham that reminded me of another change that was made that I forgot to highlight for you. And that is your second meeting of the month, that the location of the second meeting of the month also be held in this room. That recommendation is considering the enhancements that the board made with audio and visual in this room, and it being a public meeting, and the tightness that we get sometimes in the back room with the number of guests that we have, that we would just like to recommend you consider having your second meeting in this room.
Seems to be non-negotiable.
It's up to you. We just,
I do understand the upgrading of the facilities, yes.
yeah.
Any questions on that? I do, when it's not a large group, enjoy the committee room to get reports, but we can certainly do it here. Any objection to that? Okay. Any other questions? Do you want to go through those, or?
You tell me, do you want me to go through them, or have folks been,
We got a few changes on there. Does anybody desire her to go through them, or are we okay with them?
Well, I don't necessarily want to go through those, but I got a few others that I want to recommend.
On this document?
They're pretty simple.
Okay. All right. Anybody need to go through the highlighted areas? Go ahead, Mr. Outlaw.
I'm on page 3, and I'm looking at regular meetings and second monthly meetings. And I'm just asking a question, should there be some flexibility in here? And I know we would have to send out an advance notice if we changed the meeting date, but should we so reference that in these rules of order? That would be my first question.
Well, let's take them one at a time.
Okay.
Do you want to answer, or you want the attorney to answer it?
Well, why do we need to specify?
Don't have to.
Well, if you say here, like the board shall hold a regular meeting, a second monthly meeting on the third Monday of the month, and we already know that that's not necessarily the case because of what we just went through. So I'm just saying, establish what the normal order of things is, but give yourself some flexibility so you can vary from your rules if you need to with the proper advance notice. That for the regular meeting and the second meeting.
Or is there anything in here that makes the adopted calendar supersede what this is?
Sure.
It is?
Oh, in here, I don't know about that. We can add something to that effect.
I'll be glad to add a statement in
I
both of
didn't
those
see anything
sections
that would do that.
about the annual adopted calendar.
Okay. I think that would clear it up, wouldn't it, Mr. Outlaw?
Yeah, I'm just offering these as
Sure.
things that keep us without having any issues with our rules of order.
Okay.
I'm on page 5, under A, Agenda 9A. It says the Assistant County Manager shall prepare the agenda. My question would be, why wouldn't we say the Assistant County Manager or designee, knowing that although Ms. Schatzer is very healthy and she's always here, that there may be occasion when she could not be here to prepare that agenda, so I would add, or designee. I realize these are minor points. I would go over to page 6 now. At the top, it says a copy of the agenda packet is to be delivered I would change the word delivered to provided, because we would provide it in hard copy, but we are really providing it through an iPad for the most part, but provided would cover both methods.
Yes,
Isn't that because of the statute?
Your iPad is delivering.
Statute says
Same.
deliver.
Maybe that's just semantics.
What did you say, Madam Clerk?
I was thinking that we had that way because of the statute. That's the way the statute reads.
Got you.
Okay.
And you say delivered would
I
mean
think includes
electronic.
email delivery.
Okay. Wayne, you okay to leave that one as is?
If that's, the statute covers that.
Okay.
And my next question along those same lines is, how about electronic? Is there any mention in here of electronic delivery? Or does delivered cover that as well?
Durham, you
If I
determine.
had to give a ruling, I'd say it would be included.
Okay. Well, if you just, if the statute allowed for it and you made a minor wording change, then you wouldn't have to give a ruling, it would be covered. The next item is under Rule 10, it says the assistant county manager again, and it doesn't give you any flexibility for a designee. The fifth item is down at the bottom of the page under 3. It says powers of the chair to determine whether a vote shall be by voice vote or roll call. We probably should add in there or show of hands. I think from time to time we actually do that. Maybe roll call would cover that.
Wouldn't that be the prerogative of the chairman?
It would be. My point though, Mr. Belfield, is it's not specified in here unless we are determining that roll call would be by a show of hands.
I think we should add show of hands.
I agree with that.
And the last item that I've got, and again, I do not expect any change to this document today on this item, but I've sent it to the attorney and the manager and some others, and I'd like for you to go in. I sent you a copy of Robert's Rules of Order when it talks about motions in ascending order of procedure, and it does talk about other types of motions where the main motion would have to yield to those motions. So I've given that to the attorney and would just ask, I'm not looking to complicate things, but just look at that and see if we shouldn't put something in there that would give us some opportunity for a substitute motion on a main motion. That would be everything that I had to say regarding the rules of order, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Other comments, questions? I feel like with the amount we got here, we probably need to work this. Do we have anything needing action on this today? I don't think so, do we?
Just if you wanted to adopt these changes, but if you want me to go ahead and make the additional changes and bring it back to you at another time for adoption?
You all right, we do it that way? Just adopt it all at one time? I think I'd rather do that.
Okay.
Wayne, the part about, I saw that email, and of course, at the time we did this, we did discuss the item you just brought up about substitute motions.
Yes, sir.
So you suggest we may want to broaden the ability to have that substitute motion?
Well,
In accordance with Robert's Rule of Order, which does give you more.
yes, sir, and
latitude with
I'm
that.
not looking to broaden it out extensively, but I do think there needs to be some opportunity for a board member to offer a substitute motion, which, the way I read it, and maybe I read it wrong, the board would have to act on the substitute motion before they acted on the main motion.
Right.
If you follow Robert's Rule of Order, that is correct.
Yes,
That
sir.
is correct.
But that's not what it currently says.
I know,
Yeah, I know.
I'm just saying, that just kind of takes away the ability of a board member to actually put a substitute motion or another motion out there before the motion's already been acted on. It's a pretty-
Without the approval of the original motion maker.
Yeah, it's a pretty simple procedure to offer a substitute motion, then vote on it, and then you bring up the main motion.
That's right. And you move back, which I was ruled last meeting out of order, and I was not.
But I'm not looking to make an
Well,
issue.
You were under our current rules.
you are under the rules I got to operate under
That's
currently.
exactly right. But I'm
But
asking
I'm talking
for
about
consideration
the
to
Robert-
possibly
I'm
expand
talking about Robert
that to give
Rules
that
of Order. I
flexibility.
was not out of order.
You're correct.
But I didn't make no
No, you won't.
disturbance out of it, but I knew I wasn't out of order. I just didn't say nothing.
Well,
Just
Mr. Bell, I want
consider
you to understand that we go to Robert's Rule of Order when our procedures don't address an item. Otherwise, we don't go to Robert's Rule of Order. Therefore, in accordance with my procedures I had, the motion was out of order. But what Mr. Outlaw is suggesting we do, we change that. So the next time you would not be. So just to be clear with where we are and how we got there.
Right.
It's not a big deal.
And I understand
Right,
we're
either one.
consistent with the rules that we've got.
Right.
I'm just offering this up as possibly an option to consider for the future.
Right. And I don't have a strong feel either way. I think the board does need to discuss it and give direction on what we want it to be though. Which we're sitting here, do each one of you understand what we're saying?
Yes.
My rules of procedure currently now, the only way you can make that substitute motion is to get approval from the original motion maker. And Robert's Rule of Order allows you to do that without that approval, which means you would rule on, you'd have a vote on the substitute motion prior to going back to the other motion. I think, Vince, do you know exactly what Robert's Rule of Order says as it relates to that something to the effect of an opposite outcome would be out of order?
Yeah, Mr. Outlaw sent it to me. I've got to look at it before I can make my recommendation.
Okay, all right. Well, what we'll do then is just wait.
Well, you would definitely have an opposite outcome possibly.
You could
Because
have.
if you vote on the substitute motion, somebody might make a motion for A,
Yeah.
and I might make a substitute motion for B.
Right.
So you would have to vote on the B, and if the
Right.
B passed, then obviously the A would have to fail.
And I would caution you that we need to spend a little time looking at that prior to we moving forward with that. I know how cumbersome it can be in our state meetings sometimes, that it can go on indefinitely almost.
Well, we are a body of 7, and I don't think that we should
understand.
allow one person to decide whether or not we should have some type of substitute motion, because there may be a majority of our board that would be supportive of that. And I think you're really putting that person in a kind of a precarious situation when you ask them for their approval to have a substitute motion. I mean, I think you eliminate that if you just put it in your rules of order.
Well, the same effect would be though, is to have the motion, if the majority wants it another way, it would take care of itself anyway. But again, I don't really care. I'd handle it either way, but I see what you're saying. Do you stop it at a substitute motion, or do you?
Put it in your rules of order, you do.
Okay. Stop it at one substitute motion. Because what happens sometimes with us, we get them stacked up 5 deep.
Well, all I'm saying is if I want to make a substitute motion,
Right.
then I want to make that motion. And then if this board decides they want to vote 6-1 against that motion, then I'm okay with that. But I at least want the opportunity and the privilege to make that motion. And I think that, back to Mr. Bellfield's point, that's what he would have liked to have done,
Sure.
was had the opportunity to offer that motion, and then if we'd have voted 6-1 against it, then he'd have been fine with that.
Sure.
And I would have too.
All right, what we'll do then is give you a chance, Mr. Durham, to review what's been asked, make sure we're on legal grounds, and then it will be in the recommendation that comes back to us.
And another thing.
Yes, sir.
There can be amendments up to 2.
We don't want to get in all
But
complicated.
Well, it
we
can,
don't, well, we really don't need to get into it, but you can amend them. Two amendments is the max.
well,
Amendment, well, when I
Depends on what
say
the
that, it's
platform says.
amendment of the amendment.
right.
Like, our rules allow for that, and
But,
currently 19.6.
but that's when you get into some complication and confusion, when you're using amendment, and then somebody amend the amendment,
Complicated.
and it complicates it.
Well, the way it is now is an amendment to a motion must be germane to the subject of the motion, but it may not achieve the opposite effect of the motion. In which,
Well, amendments and substitute motions, I think, are different things.
They are.
We need to
They
be
are.
clear on that.
They are different. They are different. Yeah, they are.
We'll,
But I just brought it up that you can do an amendment,
understand,
and then somebody can amend the amendment.
that's correct.
Mr.
That's
Chairman, I'll work with the attorney and
Okay.
provide you all with an amended document to
I
consider.
think we'll get all the other small changes done,
Right.
but this one, we'll let the whole board talk about it again.
Okay, that'll be fine. With,
Thank you.
with you coming with some recommendations.
Yes.
Okay. That good with everybody? All right, that was item number 18. We'll go to item 19. Tarsa's been patient.
Yes, sir. Good morning.
Good morning.
You know, at this time, you have before you the tax collector's report. It's designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax collector's office. It is designed for informational purposes only and does not require approval. It is recommended that you accept the report so that it will be noted in the minutes. And of course, if you have any questions, I would be glad to answer any.
Any questions on the tax report? See none, we'll move to item 20, tax refunds.
Okay, and we do have a couple of refunds that we need approval so that we can disperse those funds.
You have the tax refunds requested. Any questions on those? Entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Tax refunds are approved.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, ma'am. We're now under item number 21, which is commissioner comments. Any commissioner have comments they'd like to bring before the board at this time?
I've got two comments.
Ms. Leggett?
One, I'd like to just acknowledge our local cooperative extension service. They hosted last week the Farm City Breakfast, which was held at the Rocky Mount, or the Nash County Farmers Market. And it was a very nice event, and it really highlighted that precious relationship between the rural and urban and your farmer producers of the county. And also, I'd like to recognize Southern Nash football team. They're moving on to the semifinals of the state playoffs for their conference. So that's quite an accomplishment, and they have quite a program going on there.
That I understand started in our recreation department with flag football in that part of the county. Per the school board member. Comments well taken. Good luck to them. Other commissioner comments at this time?
Oh, I was thinking about Southern Nash football program. I was just wondering where they're drawing so many outstanding football players for. Do they have a feeder school that's feeding players into them?
According to school board member, Mr. Lamb, it comes out of our recreation, Nash County Recreation Department, and the flag football that goes on in that part of the county was his recent comment that was made in a meeting I was in.
Yeah,
And I'm sure it starts there.
In the middle
Yeah,
school.
well, you know, I
In the
was
middle school.
noticing it and reading it, and in the history of them, because see, I remember when they started, it took them about 10 years to even begin to really compete. And then all of a sudden, boom, you got some going on to, big schools and going on to play pro ball. And I said, well, what school is feeding into it? And they were saying, well, Southern Middle might be doing something. I said, I don't ever see a schedule of Southern Middle having a football, even having a football team. But I said, somewhere down the line, they starting with those kids pretty young. I mean, young, not pretty young, but just use the term young, to make them outstanding football players. They have a outstanding team over there, and they know how to play together, too.
Understood, sir.
Yeah, they'll probably end up being state champion this year.
We hope. I think that's what we all hope for.
Yeah.
Any other commissioner comments? I had just a few. I would again like to thank the board for seeing fit to elect me chairman for the next year. I will do my best. I would like to hear from you at any time, from any board member on something you'd like to see done different. You know, you can call me basically night or day and go over it with me. Don't let me do something that bothers you, without, call me and let me know, and, I like to be corrected and I like to learn from my mistakes, so feel free to call me anytime. Finance report, Ms. Wood, I read the monthly report we get each month, and of course, the finance report is attached to it. Pretty much in a format that doesn't give me a tremendous amount of information. Is it possible to get a very short summary monthly when we get those finances? I'm getting more, I guess, cautious of the financial part of this job all the time, because we keep seeing people that don't do things like they're supposed to do. Not that we don't do it here, we try our best, but the sooner we know something, the better. But if we could get some little something and we could talk about it to show us how each department is doing within their approved budget. Just a quick review. Mr. Lamb, you want to comment on that? I'd be glad to hear from you.
Yeah.
You may know what I'm speaking of.
I do. Prior to coming here as a commissioner and as a manager in 2 counties, we each month gave the year-to-date budget, which is what, 50 pages? About 50 pages to the commissioners, and that was not the tradition here, I was told. But that is very informative. It gives you every line item. It doesn't, I think that would take care of the need, if you'd like us to provide each member of the board the year-to-date budget.
I don't know that, I personally, the other one could speak for herself, I really wasn't looking for 50 pages to look at each month. I think I would want more of a executive review from the finance director without spending a lot of time on it, because I know we all have more than we can do. Probably more along the line to flag anything that seemed to be a department that's not staying within their budget, more so than the ones that are staying in it, particularly any light items that are way out of kilter, more than 25% out of budget or something. But I'm not asking for a lot of time to be spent.
Yeah, I
If you
understand.
give me 50 pages, we got any commissioner wants to look at it, I don't probably
Yeah,
think so, Mr.
if
Lamb.
any commissioner wants that on a monthly basis, we'll be glad to provide it. All we got to do is hit print. It's really easy, so just let me know.
I do
So you're
understand.
saying it's easier to give us 50 pages than it is to come up with some kind of new
It's easier
summary?
for me either way.
It's not hard for you either way, what you mean. Donna, call me if
We'll get
you'd
it
like
straight,
to.
yeah.
But I think you know kind of sort of what I'm looking for, but I would appreciate that. I just, the way we get it, I don't decipher, I can't decipher if we got any problem issues anywhere, short and long of it. Next item, Mr. Lamb, we talked a little bit last month, I think. I don't know how many of us were in the conversation about a request from Stony Creek. Have we, as far as an ambulance problem, have we moved forward with that any, or where are we at? The question, I think, that you were going to check on for the board members was, did we have any that we were rotating out of? I know we're doing remounts.
We will check on that,
I
and
think we need to respond to that request because I know it's a very important item for the county.
Okay.
Well, was that the full extent of what was discussed? I thought there'd been some thinking about,
We were expecting, I think we were looking for a recommendation from
yeah,
staff.
yeah,
No, that wasn't the only thing.
yeah.
That was one item, but
I think everybody probably got that letter from Stony Creek.
I thought I sent it out,
I
but
believe you did.
Yeah.
I believe you did.
I'll make sure everyone has it. And
But I think we probably ought to go ahead and get back in touch with them. I read, and, see if you could find this out a little while back about the new, update of our facilities in here and the fact that we still couldn't produce our meetings live because X was located in another location. Is anything we're doing with our countywide internet service going to resolve that, or is there a reasonable resolve to that so we could produce them live if the board so chose to?
Sandy, can you address that?
Oh, I didn't see Sandy back there, okay.
On Facebook?
What was your last statement?
We weren't sure that the board was receptive to going live at this point.
Now, what he's referring to is Jonathan has indicated to the media that, to Bill West, that we don't have in this building, we don't have something that allows us to do it live. I mean, I know we can do it on Facebook, but.
Our new upgrade, that was one of the things that we put in our new upgrade, was the ability to go live.
Okay.
So Jonathan and I work on making that happen, and if that's the direction we want, that you're asking to go, we'll be happy to do that.
I don't know why not.
Does any board member object to having our meetings live?
No, I encourage it.
Well, I do as well. Okay, well, if you could just let us know on that, Sandy. What I read said exactly what Mr. Lamb indicated. There was some switch or something that wasn't here.
Right, now, prior to the upgrade, we could not do it.
Oh, okay,
That's true.
okay.
But that was one of the things that we incorporated into the new upgrade, was things in place that would give us the ability to do live streaming.
Well, the article actually read we could shorten it up now to doing it 2 hours later. It was probably another error by the reporter. I don't know what it was. I'm kidding with y'all.
Him on me?
Just joking. This board appreciates all y'all do for us. If you just let us know, and I think we would like to do that if indeed we could.
Both meetings?
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
Our people, I'm surprised at how many people look at it on the delayed service because we get many comments about what we do up here. Did we get the joint meeting with the school board
Yes.
tied down?
Yes,
Oh, you gonna go over that, okay?
December 11th
Wednesday,
at 6 o'clock
December 11th.
6 p.m.
at Central High School
Okay.
in the Media Center.
I am hoping that that board doesn't take action on the moving forward with employing the firm that they met with last week, consulting firm, to the basic management of the new school. I don't know if it's on their agenda tonight or not. Do you know, Mr. Outlaw?
I don't think it's on the agenda tonight, unless I just overlooked it.
Okay. Is anybody object to me checking with the chairman after our meeting just to see if they intend to take action on it tonight? I would much prefer they not do it until we have further discussion with them about it, because I just think this board feels very strongly about the lack of need for that thing. So if nobody objects, I'm going to indeed check
Well,
with
could
that.
I just make one more comment on that?
Please do, sir.
The way that was publicized in the paper was that this board just chose not to go to that November 21st meeting. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing, but it said something like, no members of the Board of Commissioners were in attendance. So,
I personally
so if you go
told the
back.
press that you
If you
were.
go back and you look at what actually transpired, this board in October offered 2 dates. About a month later, maybe not exactly a month, but several weeks, at least 3 weeks later, they came back and said, neither one of these dates will work. But instead of giving us an option, they gave us the 21st. And at least 5 members of this board had a previous commitment, and so therefore we could not make that meeting. So I think it's important to understand that we did not just shy away from going to that session. But if I had have went to that session, I would have preferred to have seen the management group make their presentation and then have an architectural firm there to make a counter presentation. Because I don't know, because I'm not an architect, I'm not in construction, but you can take a $20 million project, and I'm not saying this is what would happen, but it could happen. You take a $20 million project, which I would hope it would be no more than that, and then that project comes in at 22 million, and then they reduce it to 21 million, and therefore they have saved $1 million of the taxpayers' money, when in reality, they have cost $1 million to the taxpayer. And you know, again, I'm not an advocate. I'm not trying to be overly advocating for our chairman, but we do have on the Nash Community College Board at least 2 contractors, and we have 1 contractor on this board. And why would the school system think that this contractor is going to do anything to escalate the cost of that new school when he's directly responsible to the people for our tax revenue? I just don't quite understand that, and I wish we could have that discussion and have it in a manner that was not contentious and argumentative, but at least, you know, we don't know what to deal with on this management group, because everything I've ever heard or known was that an architectural firm could do pretty much the same thing. But it was explicitly stated in that presentation that that was not necessarily the case. So I'm a little bit confused, but we seem to have done fairly well at Nash Community and the county and the school system for ever and ever with an architectural firm. So, you know, that's enough said on that, but that's just kind of the way I feel about it.
Yeah. Mr. Chairman, I thought what I read, I wasn't able to get to the meeting because of previous commitment also. What I read, it sounded like they're gonna employ an architect.
That's what they do, yes.
Yeah. And if they're gonna be handling the project, why do they need to employ an architect? An architect gonna charge basically about the same thing if you just only had an architect doing it.
Well, that's kind of one of our key points, Mr.
Well, it's been a sticking point with me, and I think all the board members know it ever since I've been on this board. The way we oversee projects, they want to oversee projects, including the county here. Our own projects. I just don't see anybody out there got to manage it and pay them a large sum of money when it's something that we can do ourselves.
Understood, sir.
Because we always come up and say that our staff don't have the time to do it. Our engineer doesn't have time to get into overseeing these projects. And some of them are mandated that you hire somebody, these grants, especially these federal grants.
They do.
Yeah. But, in which we as a board can't do anything about that. That's something Congress has to take care of. And it's broken, so it's not going to take care of it.
Right. The last item I had on my agenda was, and I chose not to do it today under public comment, the comment that we had about the jail. I've moved my comments, and they'll be very brief, but I do want the press that's present here today to understand that there are always two sides to any story, in all stories. And there's certainly a different side of what we had presented this morning to this jail story here in Nash County. I've stated before that this board is very much concerned about our jail. We're concerned about our operations of our jail, and we're concerned about the facilities over there at the jail. We feel like now we've got a handle on what we are in control of or what we are charged with. We don't like the word control, but we are charged by statute for the facility of the jail. We do not take that lightly. We have moved along, and as you stated, Mr. Belfield, things you've said ever since you've been a commissioner, I've always think it always takes us too long to do everything we do over here, but I've almost been here long enough to know it's just going to take a long time if we do everything like we're supposed to. But we can still move it as quick as we can, and we do much better on it as it relates to capital projects than what we have in the past. But I want to assure the public in any way I can that this Board of Commissioners is very concerned about our jail situation. We're going to fix the part that we are in charge of. We have employed a firm to move us forward with that. We're going to take their recommendations, which we do not know what they will be, and we will start the budgeting process to put the funds in place to do what this board chooses to do moving forward. The operation side of it, this board does not have any control over that. It's very clear in the statute what we can do. And we're going to continue to work with our sheriff's department to try to improve operations. But this board can't do it by itself. And we'll keep asking what we can do, as we have done in the past. But for the public side, we do know what facility needs are, and we will be moving forward with funding that and moving forward in the construction that it dictates. And we'll be doing it just as fast as the law allows us to do it. I feel like sometimes the comments that are brought to us are somewhat structured, but with that said, any member of the public can come to this board anytime they wish and bring their comments, and we always want to hear them. But there is always another side to it, and this, because it's the right thing to do, this board has an adopted public comment guideline, and in that comment, we generally, in that guideline, we don't make comments to public comments that come to us because it would be dangerous to do that without doing your research first. But we've been researching this jail for about 9 months now, and I feel very comfortable speaking on behalf of the board that we are going to do the facility side of it in as timely a manner as what the law allows us to do. Our staff has this a very high priority, from the managers sitting here beside of me to every department head that we got, and I'm thankful every day to our maintenance staff that stays in that jail and does the best they can with what they have to fix behind the people that are tearing it up constantly. But with that said, I just don't want it to be a one-sided story that we are sitting up here not doing anything, because we certainly are. And if any other comments from commissioners, you feel like you need to say something, I'd certainly invite you to do it at this time. I'm still under commissioner comments. So if anybody else wishes to say anything, please feel free to.
I would just like to echo your sentiment there. We're very serious about the issue, and we are definitely looking to this as a very important item.
Thank you, Ms. Leggett. Anybody else wish to say anything?
Well, I just wish that,
Mr. Outlaw?
although we have no responsibility or authority in terms of operation of the jail, I just wish there was something that we could offer up that would provide the sheriff's office with any help that they could use while they're trying to get their staff up to where they need to be.
I understand your comment very well. And of course, we're here at any time to try to help that item if help is sought, but it's not something we can do without cooperation to do that.
There are some things out there that could possibly help in the short term.
It is indeed. Anything else? If not, I'll turn it over for manager report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. We, as I mentioned earlier, we are going to adjourn the meeting today and post a special called meeting, joint meeting with the school board on December the 11th at Nash Central High School in the Media Center. The meeting to begin at 6. I believe there's going to be a meal before then, right?
5:30.
Or 5:30. We were going to recess for the, to reconvene after Nashville's meeting tonight or tomorrow night, but they have delayed any action on the recreation issue at least until December the 9th. So we will either try to incorporate that in the 11th meeting or have another special meeting if they do act on it December the 9th. Jonathan Boone is pulling together a committee to work on the Charters of Freedom. He'd like to have a couple commissioners to serve on that committee. If anyone is interested, please let Jonathan know. It's an informal, staff-driven committee. He actually said 1 or 2, but as many, up to 3, if any of y'all are interested. Planning Director Adam Tyson is ready to schedule the joint strategic land use planning meeting workshop. At the November 18th meeting, you expressed an interest in having that, a joint meeting between the Board of Commissioners and the Planning Board to discuss topics related to the upcoming update of the Nash County Land Development Plan. We have 3 dates recommended by Adam, but we are flexible if you want to move it up. Those dates are Tuesday, February the 11th, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Thursday, February the 13th, 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Or Tuesday, February 25th, from 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. If one of those dates work, or if you prefer another date, we're open for suggestions.
Could you repeat those dates?
Yes, sir. Tuesday, February 11th, Thursday, February 13th, and Tuesday, February 25th. All 3 at 6 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. And we would have it here in this building. Again, Tuesday, February 11th, Thursday, February 13th, or Tuesday, February 25th.
It would just be one of those.
Yes.
Do you want us to decide that now, or
Yeah.
what you ask?
Yeah, well, if you could.
Okay.
If y'all want to go ahead and set it, we'll put it in stone.
Good with all those dates?
Everybody's good with all those dates?
Give me 1 second here. I don't know. I'm good with all the dates.
Okay, everybody's good with all 3 dates. If someone will put forward a date, we'll go with it. The 11th is fine with us. Tuesday, February the 11th. Is that okay?
Beats the 13th.
It does.
That's right, 11.
February the 11th.
February 11th, 6 PM to 8:30 PM. And Adam will let the planning board know, and I think we're going to have a facilitator at the meeting, so.
So you'll let us know the location?
Here, right here.
Okay.
Yeah. February 11th, 6 PM to 8:30 PM, Tuesday. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
All right, anything else from a board member? Not, I need to call for a closed session. It's for the economic development, discussion, matters of attorney-client privileges, as well as one personnel item. And I would, ask that the manager invite Mr. Haggy to join us for the first part of that for economic development, if he
Okay.
sees fit to.
Sure.
I do not expect any action. Does the attorney or the manager think we'll have any action on this in this
I don't
meeting?
think so. Can't think of anything. If we do, we will, of course, immediately notify to the clerk, all three of y'all.
Personnel item is the board is continually working on Mr. Lamb's appraisal for evaluation, excuse me, for the rest of this, for this 2019 year. That's what that's about. All right, entertain a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
I don't know who said what, but did you get anything, Jan? I think
Looking
Ms.
in the
Leggett-
wrong direction. You're looking in the opposite direction.
Good.
Motion,
Well, I heard Ms. Leggett first,
oh,
and one of you gentlemen second.
second.
Mr. Bellfield second. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by? All all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by like sign. Reconvene the regular meeting in closed session. There was no action taken that would warrant us to have a vote in open session, just discussing. And at this time, under the approval of the minutes, in the minutes of the first meeting in November, I failed to point out on page 20 that we had a change in some numbers on what we actually took action on during that meeting. And it was decided that if we changed the numbers and corrected them in the minutes and adopted the minutes, that would take care of making that item correctly done. So when we approved those minutes, I'll just point out that we did approve some numbers that were different than when we originally approved it. Very minor in nature. Second thing, in the excitement of being the elected chairman again, I overlooked a point that we needed to appoint a clerk and an attorney for the board for the next 2 years also. So at this time, I'd entertain a motion to appoint those two people, hopefully the two that we've been working with for a long period of time.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Bellfield?
I offer a motion that we appoint Janice Evans as our clerk to the board and Attorney Vince Durham as our county attorney.
All right, I have a motion, and this is a 2-year appointment, as I understand. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Have a motion and a second by Ms. Richardson. All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And anything else needs coming from the board?
You can say that too. No.
Is there anything else we need to take up? Have I got anything else? If not, I entertain a motion to adjourn the December 1st meeting, December 2nd meeting.
So moved.
Have a motion to adjourn, is there a second? Second. Is there any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Stand adjourned.